Hi guys, it's RIB Robert Ian Bonnick, inspirational speaker, inspirational coach, and author of this book, Soul Survivor: How an Abandoned Child Went from Nothing to Everything, published by New Holland. Now, if you're watching this is a bonus video, I guess you can call it that. So, talking to a client 2 days ago, there's a coaching call. It's like a free discovery call. One of these free discovery calls that we do to find out if we can work together on writing a book and turning your story into a book. And, what they said to me kind of resonated, right? And so for those who don't know my history, so I grew up in 2 children's homes in London and wasn't given many prospects, suffered lots of different types of, I wouldn't call it abuse, but that's what people call it these days. But great experiences, bad experiences. But I took the good from any experience which I went through, and there was a lot of different experiences, right? So I learned, like, life gave me a lot of lessons early, right? Which I learned, and I was like an introvert at home and an extrovert at school. Introvert at home because I was always the youngest one there. I was bullied every now and again, made to fight every now and again. Sometimes I won, but rarely, right? And but the interesting thing is that through being an introvert, what happens is that, I was able to sit back and see the decisions that these older kids were making and where those decisions led them. And then I would decide, do I want to make that same decision? In other words, do I want the same outcome or not? That's one thing. Then years later, I became a coach as well, and I was always coaching people. I was always the guy that people used to come to and ask advice about stuff, right? And that was ever since school. And then, then coming out there, playing elite sport for my country, traveling around the world, speaking different languages, working with Madonna, working with Supermodels, working with big celebrities in all different countries, having a business voted number 3 in the world, a club in Sydney called Tank. And, and then having a family now with 2 kids, and my partner, we live here in Bali. So all of these experiences, because I was always an inspirational coach anyway, but all of these experiences, what they showed me? When I saw, with all different types of people, different energy, different background, different colors, money, no money, fame, no fame, fortune, no fortune. Like, what I began to see were the things, right, that unite us, were the things that connect us. I realized that in one way or another, we are all a product of those first 5 to 7 years. That theta brainwave state, that we're impressionable, right? That we don't know anything about anything. It's literally learned behavior. We mimic our parents or our loved ones, or our caregivers around us without knowing what that looks like. We don't necessarily listen to what our parents are saying, but we do what they do, right? So a kid studying history, age of 12, history, 100 Years War. This one was about one in the Middle East, but there are many 100 Years Wars. Kid in the background puts his hand up. Miss, yes. 100 Years War, yes. Can't be the same people fighting, can it? 100 years? Huh? Of course not. I didn't get it. Later on I did. What I got was, it's the message that we pass down to our kids, right? Between those ages of 5 and 7. It's our behavior that then determines who they become. So, for example, if I believe that someone is better or worse because of the color of their skin, or the money in their pocket, or the way they speak, or the accent they have, or the hair color, the eye, all of this stuff, that's what I carry on unconsciously, right? And then once I got that, I began to see it again and again and again and again and again, and it just kept on coming around again and again and again. Now, what that gave me, I didn't understand at the time, but on this phone call I was having with a client now, and they gave it to me. It's like, Rob, you have great empathy. And it hit me. I was like, that's right, I do. Because, ever since growing up as a kid, I always look for the best in people. Always. And I grew up with gangsters, thugs, criminals. I grew up with rich people, poor people, like all colors of the rainbow, right? But that's one thing which I always did. I always look for the good in people. And anyone who knows me knows this to be the case, right? So that empathy is something which makes me very good at, being a coach, being a speaker, in any situation which involves emotional intelligence, right? So there's 3 types of listening. One, listening to interrupt. Oh, yeah, but I think this, right? Another type of listening is, like listening for listening's sake, i.e. you just pretend to be listening, right? Same thing as number 1, really. And number 3 is active listening. So then it's like I'm actively listening to you, meaning I'm listening to what you're saying and what you're not saying without judgment. Without judgment. And the reason why I can do that is because the way that I grew up was perfect, right? Because I saw so many things, so many different people doing wrong things, right things, and all the rest of that, but I could see inside of them, and I didn't have judgment, right? So then now when it comes to discovery calls or coaching in terms of the book, turning your story into a book, what I'm able to do is that I'm able to kind of tune into you, and I pull out the bits which come through. Okay, last example. So before I do any coaching session, before I go to any speaking keynote or anything like that, what I do this little technique, this focusing technique, which is Rebecca Tapp. If you're watching this, Rebecca Tapp, thank you, Bex. We discussed it a long time ago, and 3 deep breaths, like deep breaths and out. And then here in Bali is easy because nature's around you. I sit down, I tune into nature, I tune into the sounds around me, and it brings my energy down, right? And then what I do, and this is not religious, it's not about religious thing, okay? I imagine white light coming down, blanketing me in white light. And what I do is I say, okay, please God, allow me to be of best value to the room if I'm doing a keynote, or to my client if I'm doing a coaching call, or to this group if I'm doing a group chat or a workshop, right? Now what this does is it gets me out of the way. We all have an ego, we all do, right? But it gets that ego out of the way. So what then happens is that, in a way, I become like an empty container, like an empty vessel. So then I'm in stage 3 of listening, active listening. I'm listening to what you're saying and what you're not saying, right? But I'm listening intently because I care, and I'm looking for something, right? And quite often I don't know what that is I'm looking for, but it always shows up. And this is why I'm able to do what I do really, really well. Because for me, it's taken me 50 years, right, to get to this and to hone all of this. And that's what I bring to you, right? So that's enough for this video. Trust it's been of value. Look forward to seeing you on the next one, guys. Thank you. Bye for now.